Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's Transformation Talk. I'm here today with Christina Rasmussen, who's a writer, speaker, coach, the founder of Second Firsts, and also many other exciting things that we're going to talk about today. So thank you so much for being here today, Christina.
So good to be here, Alana. So good to start my Monday off with you.
Oh, I have been wanting to talk with you for a very long time. I am thrilled that we're finally going to get to do it. Would you please tell us a little about your personal story of loss?
Of loss and transformation.
And absolutely, transformation.
I am just an average, regular person. I was living my life fully. We moved from England, my husband and I, to Texas, ready for an adventure with his job, and we had our two little girls there, and in 2002 we decided to move to Boston for a new adventure. From California, actually, we had gone from Texas, California, Boston. We were all about living fully, having fun. Certainly through him, he was very adventurous, very active, very healthy kind of person. And all of a sudden, early 2003, he found a lump on his neck. And I remember the day, Alana, he turned around. He said to me, "I have this thing here on my neck. And what do you think it is?" I said, "Well, let's check it out." The time he was 31 and I was 30 years old. And we had a 9-month-old baby and a 2.5-year-old daughter. And he went to the doctors. He did all the blood tests and everything turned out really great. And on his way out, he turned to the doctor and said, "And I have this here." And she said, "Let's send it for a biopsy." And it turned out that he had stage 4 colon cancer, which has spread from his colon all the way up to his neck. They had given him at the time 6 months to live. And our life as we knew it was gone forever. I actually remember the moment that everything stopped, and you can never, ever, ever go back to the self that was there prior to the news. I threw up in the bathroom, and I didn't eat for a long time and couldn't sleep, couldn't breathe. I had a paper bag in my mouth, just lying in bed. And I remember doing the laundry and crying, doing the cooking and crying. From that moment on, he went to the hospital, had surgery, removed the main tumor, and then started chemotherapy for about 3.5 years. Actually, we lived in that life and death experience. So loss happens even prior to the actual date of loss, and so we were in and out of Dana-Farber every week with the babies, the children, and he would be in bed all weekend, throwing up. I'm sorry I'm so direct, but just painting the experience. And then in July 21st, 2006, he died. And I remember that moment. That moment was very peaceful in that moment. And I remember looking around me, and he was there, and thinking, I didn't know what was going to happen. And what I didn't know then that I know now was that I died that day with him. And I got to keep my body. And the body that I was keeping fooled everyone, including me, that I was still alive. And I spent about 2.5 years in what now I call the waiting room, a place between two lives, the life you left behind and the life you're yet to have. And you don't know it's the waiting room. You don't know that you're waiting for time to heal you, when time does not heal all wounds. Action does. And we take action, but we take the wrong action based on fear. So I took wrong actions. I went back to school for a 3rd degree, and I did a postgraduate degree in business, human resource management, actually, and got a corporate job at a pharmaceutical company, thinking that I was doing it all by myself, and made sure my parents were not to take care of me or my kids. So I was a single mother with no babysitters, and I was doing it all. Full-time job at a corporate job, and 2 little kids with no help whatsoever.
Wow.
Apart from every Thursday, I remember it. There was an amazing woman would come in called Patty and take the girls for 2 or 3 hours every Thursday, and I would do the grocery shopping. And then I would find myself at Barnes and Noble just sitting in a big chair reading my books. And I thought that was life. And that's the way it would be, when you lose someone who's so important to you.
I think it's so important for us to share those journeys, like how hard it was, how it was 2.5 years of just like being in the waiting room, and that was your process.
Yes.
So what happened in you to get you out of the waiting room and back into your life?
Very good question, Alana. It happened in a very crazy, funny way and very unexpected. And I think that it is so funny. You're going to laugh. But I call what I'm going to share with you portals. We all have these portals around us, but we don't see them. We don't think they're going to change our life. But it was Christmas, and my mailman decided not to drop off my mail. And I don't know if you've read about my story before, but he would go by the mail and my mailbox, and there was so much snow. I lived in Boston. There was so much snow around that he wouldn't stop. So it went like this for like weeks, and it was just a week before Christmas, and I said to myself, I want my Christmas cards. I had decided to spend Christmas with my kids alone without anyone coming to visit. I said to myself, I wanna experience reality. I want to do this alone. That was the wrong goal, obviously, and I hear a lot of people who I work with telling me the same thing. I want to be independent. I'm like, really? Do you really want to be all by yourself? Is this the goal we should have? Right. I was doing the same thing. I was having the same goal. So, okay, I decided I'm going to go shovel the little mail area. 2 hours later, shovels, made enough space. I went back to my house and waited for the mail guy to come by and drop off the mail. He comes by, looks, stops, and then drives away, not dropping off anything. Oh my goodness. In that moment in time, I had 2 choices. One, sit on my couch, cry my eyes out, and really say this to myself. Not only my husband is gone, I have 2 little kids, I'm a single mother, I can't even get my freaking mail. I'm sorry, but, how worse can it get? Right. This is terrible. Or, choice number 2, put my snow boots on and run with my PJs all the way until I could get him. And this is a car, he's driving a little truck, right? Uh-huh. I put on my boots and I started running in the snow like a mad woman. So the little truck would start and stop, start, stop. And every time I would catch up, he would move again. Finally, about 4 blocks down the road, I don't remember how far away it was, but I was running. He had to deliver a package. So he had to stop, get out, go deliver. I caught up with him. I look at him. He'd probably seen me on the rearview mirror running, like this crazy person running. And I said to him, you need to give me my mail. And why didn't you deliver it? He turned around and said, Christina, there was not enough space to deliver your mail. And I said, but I shoveled for hours. I really thought I did a great job. And he said, well, you should have asked your husband to do it. And I said, he would if he could, but he's dead. Now give me back my mail. The poor guy, I felt worse for him than I did for me. I think he went either red or white. I can't remember what color he turned. He gave me the mail. I never missed my mail since that day. Not only that, I got a promotion at work, and I started going for what was mine. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't going to let my life passing me by and really stepping into this victim role. I really gave up that identity. And I believe that mailman experience gave birth to me. I met Eric, my husband, today. Weeks after that, it was literally one thing after the other. Amazing things started happening, but I was going after them. Mm-hmm. I wasn't just sitting in that waiting room. I exited the waiting room that day. And I know, Alana, for many people, a small experience like this could be life-altering, life-changing. And I know it may sound silly, but for me, that was my portal out of the waiting room and into the life I was meant to have.
Mm-hmm. That's such a beautiful example, because I think quite often we're waiting for this big thing, like we're waiting for the I don't know, the knight on the white horse to come riding in, or God to knock on our head and say, wake up. But it can be these little moments of just like,
Yes.
oh, I'm waking up inside and I need to live. Like, I need to live. I love
Do
it.
something crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't, I think people who go through devastating experiences, whatever they are, divorce, rejection, abuse, parents who didn't love you, whatever your loss is, I think I don't care what people think of me anymore. And you start creating the life you really want to have for yourself. So chasing down the mailman, I don't care what the neighbors thought. I really did not care at all. And I'm not saying go run naked down the street or anything like that, but if there's a neighbor that bugs you because he plants trees in your part of your yard, or you have a friend that is not who you want it to be, go do something about it. Yeah. And life begins from those small moments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So from this small moment of chasing the mailman, you created this incredible... I mean, it's a business, it's an organization, it's a support system, second firsts for people who've experienced a loss, and you've created this reentry model. So can you tell us a little bit about how Second First was born and how you created the reentry model?
Yes. Second First was born in the middle of the night, about 2 a.m., right about the mailman story, just before my promotion at work. Everything, like I said, the universe kind of aligns a lot of different things in your life for some reason. And I didn't do anything with the name for quite some time, but I remember sitting on my computer saying to myself, obviously there's nothing in the world that can help me. I've got to create it. And I couldn't find, I was looking for other words like second chapter or community. And then all of a sudden, this word Second First came to me, and I bought the domain name, parked it, and about year and a half later, I was telling someone about it, and I said the name. She screamed. She literally said, "Oh my God, if you don't use this name, I'm going to kill you." And I said, "You really like the name?" I like the name. I know what it means, but apparently it was perfect. And slowly I went and trained also as a neuroscience coach. I just don't want to forget that. It takes a lot of work actually to do this. I'm a perfectionist, so not only I have all these degrees, but I said I need specific training that I can really use for this kind of thing. Of course, they didn't teach me how to help people recover from loss in my training, but they taught me how to use the brain to create new maps that are not automatic. And I like to explain neuroscience in very simple terms, because I believe people get scared of the word and they're like, "What do you mean? I don't want to know." They're in pain. They don't care about their brain. They don't care about neuroscience. So the way I always share it with people is that the road to your dreams is a dirt road with bloody knees and no signposts. You have to get off automatic gear and go into manual. You have to exit the big highway and enter a small little road that you are creating step by step. And that's how a new life is being created. Not by going into automatic routines, habits, and patterns of grief. Actually, grief doesn't last a long time, but the idea of grief and stepping into that grief identity and using those grief maps over and over again will continue to build on our grief life instead of our life after loss. So creating a new map in your brain, a new neuron experience, is literally very, very important. And without it, I don't think you can never exit the highway. Small steps, I call them plug-ins, a reentry model. I found that as a coach, we have to think about all these big goals people should have, and people would get scared. So they would really say yes to building something really big, and then they would fail. And then they would go not only back to their grief pattern inside their waiting room, but they would go even further. They would go into trance grief. I call this transing, meaning that you just remember your past and your loss, and you go into that place, not by just sharing your story, but literally teleporting into the past and staying there. So in order to get them to continue to succeed, I had to take the big goals and make them small, and really take a step-by-step process into exiting the big highway and entering the small road. And I don't know if that makes sense, but it's better than talking about brain science and what goes on inside our head. So small steps, and literally trying to shift your identity out of grief and into life, and find out who you now are, because who you are now is not the person you used to be prior to the loss, especially if the loss was really big.
Yeah. Well, and I love too, you were saying that before you experienced your husband's death, you had done your master's. Was it your master's thesis on the stages of grief, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross stages of grief? So you were already, sort of, your brain already understood some of the grief process, although now that stages of grief is outdated. But that being thrown into the visceral experience of it, you were able to really transform and come out. I just think it's amazing that you came out this place, like went and learned brain science and created this new model of living after loss.
The stages of grief, certainly the denial, anger, all those bargaining. I mean, I bargained. There's no doubt about it. We all do those things. But then what? What happens then? I said to myself, where's the manual? Where's the toolbox? What do I do now? And I knew when I was going to write a book, it couldn't be a memoir. It couldn't be my story. I had read so many memoirs of loss and grief, and I cried for those people as I was reading them, and it was nice cleansing my grief, but I wasn't creating new maps. I wasn't building a new system inside of my brain to allow for the new life to come in. I was actually revisiting the grief every single day. And I say this, grief puts us into this infinite loop of loss. So it's infinite, and it keeps going round and round and round. And you can't stop it. So every day you wake up, my husband died. I was divorced. He cheated on me. Oh my gosh, everything is much harder. And this gets built bigger and bigger and bigger. Try to exit that when you're going faster and faster. It is impossible. The only way out of that infinite loop of the big highway maps, whatever you want to call them, is a very small experience, just like the mailman story, where you exit that infinite loop of loss with a new thought. Remember when I said the two choices? I had one choice to go continue that infinite loop and say, my gosh, this is so much harder. If he was here, he would have shoveled. If he was here, I wouldn't have to be all that stuff. Instead, you say, no, I'm going to go get my cards. I'm going to go talk to that person, whatever it is that you need to get in that moment in time. Don't think about the big life that's ahead of you. Because then your amygdala, if I bring any more words into this interview, there's a space inside your brain that is activated with when you're about to do something completely outside of your comfort zone. So we don't want that to be activated too much. I know I'm not saying don't jump, don't leap for something much bigger than what you have. But when you activate the fear center inside your brain, alarm it really goes all over your body, and you get back into that waiting room and back into your comfort zone faster than you would ever know. So small, I call them the plugins, the small steps that literally you can take to step outside of that infinite loop, the waiting room, and into the life that you want. Even just by getting your cards, your Christmas cards.
Well, and it just sounds like that in that moment, that need for connection with the outside world, whatever that was, just one, and I think that's so important when we listen to those deep cravings, those deep, like, yes, I want to live. We talked about before we started recording that we are hardwired for growth. Hardwired for transformation. We're not hardwired to stay stuck in the past.
It's against our evolution. And I actually believe the longer we grieve, and I am sorry I'm going to say this, but the longer we grieve, the less evolved we will be. Because grief, when it lasts forever, have you heard of the saying, grief lasts forever, or you never get over something like this, or, you're not meant to be happy again, or whatever it is that people say. Grief does not last forever. That's not normal. Just because you stop grieving, it doesn't mean you forget either. People are so afraid of forgetting. And the guilt that comes with that I will never forget, never forget, but I will always live again.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you and I were talking about this too, is that you recently had an anniversary of your husband's death. I've got an anniversary of my son's stillbirth. We feel those. We feel that grief. We feel that memory. But it's not the same as it was in that first year, 6 months. It's we're human. We have that human experience. But to stay in the acute grief phase for so long, just from what I understand from what you're saying, you don't believe that we should be doing that.
I believe that grief and life dance together from the beginning of loss. I really believe that when my husband died, I didn't eat for a long time. I didn't pick up the phone for a long time, and I couldn't cry. So I was frozen completely. I couldn't. I remember thinking, I need to cry. I need to cry. And I was so devastated that it was beyond tears. And every day that went by felt like a whole year. So grief actually lives in a place outside of time and space. It is an inhuman experience happening in a human body. And if we believe that this inhuman experience can actually take over our life, then we truly put our human capacity down. And grief can create superheroes. I really believe that. When you are allowing your brain to build new maps and new big highways that are made of patterns of life instead of patterns of grief, you create something so big. Everything that I have created, I would have never been able to create prior to my loss, prior to my, I don't want to use cliche words like awakening. I would like to say prior to my rebirth, prior to the male story, I could never have seen myself in this big light. But when you go through the impossible, and I say this over and over again, you can do everything that you can imagine to do. This is just my beginning. I plan on doing much bigger things.
Well, you have a couple of really big things happening this year. One is your book, which is coming out through Hay House, so I want to hear a little bit about that. And the other is your new nonprofit, lifestarters.org. So tell us a bit about each of those.
I will start with the nonprofit because it is a crazy project. And I really believe that we can use technology and brain science together and social interaction to remove isolation and to start living again and use an online experience to create life offline. So the Lifestarters is a social network that utilizes action steps, tools, there is even a meditation button you can use. While you're interacting with others, you take steps towards your life outside of the computer, and you come back and you share it with the people who you're working with every day. There's going to be volunteers, online volunteers, that will see if you're moving forward into the process of reentry. If not, they're going to be there with a helping hand. Otherwise, the way the Lifestarters is set up is that you set up a profile. Your you're 1 year old when you start, and this is there's the love button, not just like button. There's a love button. You use compassion, empathy, courage, and action every single day in that space. And I believe that, yes, I may not be finding water for the kids in Africa that are dying, but I am here to help your neighbor who's inside his waiting room, behind the computer, lost and alone, and maybe ready to commit suicide if it wasn't for the Lifestarters. And creating something so unique. The steps are the reentry steps. Very simple. Reentry is actually not complicated. Reentry is very simple, and life is simple. We forget that healing is simple. So we take a simple process integrated with social interaction, accountability, growth, action, and sharing, and you get a new life. So I'm hoping that one day the Lifestarters will have millions of users, and we change the stereotype of being a divorcee and a widowed person into a life starter, because I am not widowed. I am a life starter that decided to take on her world and create something that wasn't here before. And nothing can stop me. As long as I have my health, I can work many hours, too many, to create this. So the Life Starters is underway right now, and we accept donations. I have invested, my husband's life insurance in this.
Wow.
I really believed in that. I believed in creating something that would leave a legacy behind, and but I don't have anything left to give in that, and I'm hoping the world now will pick it up and really get it into the completion stage, and then we will have an app, so everyone will be able to take the Life Starters with them wherever they go. Obviously, I'm very excited about it.
Yeah. Okay, and that's launching this year sometime, fingers crossed. And
yes, we'll test it first. We have to test it before it goes out live. But as soon as the testing takes place, then it will launch.
And it's thelifestarters.org. People can go and sign up so that they are aware of what's happening, so that they're right at the forefront.
Yes.
It's free. It's a nonprofit.
It's going to be free.
And people can help support it if they want to. Absolutely. That's thelifestarters.org. And of course, I'll have all of your information in the bio under the video. So tell us about the book.
The book. Actually, we sold the rights to Germany already, which is very exciting. It will be coming out here November 4th. England, Germany. Germany is probably later. I would say 2014 to 15. It has to be translated. But here it's going to be November 4th. And I see that book as a toolbox. I wish I could be by everyone's side when they're going through something difficult. I call loss a life interruption. So life gets interrupted. Second first, the book is the reentry process. So if you were to have this book by your side, it will give you a simple explanation of what brain science is and how I've used it to come up with the reentry process. But ultimately, it will give you a step-by-step guide on how to do this, on how to get out of the waiting room, on how to find the thriver in you instead of a survivor. Most people survive after loss, and they're just happy to survive. I don't think that's enough. No matter what your loss was, surviving for the rest of your life is inadequate. And
I want to say, too, that while you're saying there's a step-by-step process, I want to be clear that you talk about on your site and in your work that everyone's process is unique. So this step-by-step process is not cookie cutter. It's like it helps you find your unique path to reentry.
That's actually a great question and great statement. I'm against steps in that way. But when you see the reentry experience or process, it is so easy to integrate it into your life and think of yourself as a thriver. Think of your waiting room. It's actually changing the way your vocabulary around grief, changing the way we view loss, changing the way we see grief as infinite, that is just this line that keeps wrapping itself around your life. The reentry process is going to cut the line. It's not going to be easy. The book has a bit of attitude, I have to say, and it shakes things up a little bit. I believe that there's a part in us that I call the watcher that has been there all along and actually has a lot of wisdom to give to ourselves. So we utilize the watcher to start talking to the survivor and activating the thriver inside of us. So this process is not really a process, is a new way of looking at ourselves and our identity and literally integrating that to the life that we want to have, and finding the keys to open the door to the waiting room and get out and be able to go back in. I really believe I go back to my waiting room to rest. You can't be growing all the time and you can't be living all the time. I need time off. I'm actually an introvert. So when I talk all day long, I need to shut down and I need to be comfortable into my quietness and space. So the book will go over the steps, and it will give you hope. Not only tools to start over, but allowing you to dream again and start making your dreams come true.
All right, November 4th. We'll be looking for it. I'm going to ask you my final 3 questions.
Yes.
If you could wave a magic wand and change anything about the world, what would it be?
I wish this kind of work was being recognized more, and we had the money to create the facilities and the resources to really help people evolve into their next chapter. Grief is actually the one thing in our lifetime that does changes forever, and the change can actually bring miracles, big miracles. So I wish the world would give billions of dollars. It's money. I have done a lot of meditation on this, Alana, and I would always, if I had one thing, what would it be? How could I change the world? What if I had a lot of money? I would take all of that money and throw it into this world of grief, life after loss. So I wish the government would actually give billions of dollars to us to help them change, and I'm hoping on knocking on their door as well very soon.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah, I so believe strongly that if we were all taught or learned to deal with our grief in a way that allowed us to move forward with open hearts and greater kindness and greater compassion, the world would just change like that. Because everything unkind comes from that place of pain, of our needs not being met. And if we can figure it out,
anger, pain comes from that. And imagine if the world thought that they could invest in helping people evolve after loss. Investment from the government. Make that as part of their political campaign.
Yeah.
That, if I had a magic wand, I would say, President, magic, money for life after loss, education for the kids, for school. I mean, we all going to experience this. Now and again, I get someone say to me, I'm not in your target audience. I love what you're writing, but this is not me. And I'm like, I don't know anyone who has not experienced loss. Have you? Do you know anyone?
No. And if they haven't experienced a really big one yet, they will before they get to the end of their lives, unless they die tomorrow. You know, like...
Yes, they will.
Yeah.
It is. And people, the people who tell me they've never experienced loss, within about 10 minutes later, they've been divorced, I hear, or broke up with an engagement with someone, or someone broke up with them and cheated. I mean, there's always something, and they don't consider that a loss.
Because people think it's death only, and that, I know, I so relate to, because you talk about that too, and there are other people that I've interviewed who talk about it. I talk about it. It's not just about death. We grieve so much.
It is not, and people say, oh, I haven't lost anyone, I'm so sorry for you, and I'm like, I want to laugh, and I say, yes, you have, and sometimes I did a post and listed all the different losses that someone could have had, even being, I've had clients who were rejected as children from their friends that didn't get invited to the birthday parties, and that stayed with them and kind of was immersed in their identity, and now their life is viewed through that filter of, I'm not going to be invited. I'm not good enough.
Yeah. That's part of my personal story. Yeah, that's absolutely part of my personal story and my personal loss story.
Yes, like, am I good enough to be invited to the party, and any party that is however old we are, there's always a party that we might not get invited to. The high school experience always keeps taking place, and that's a big loss when you have not had a good experience there. So people who's listening to this, find out what your loss is, and let's get out of the waiting room and do something about it.
All right. What brings you the most joy?
My girls. That's the reason that I got back on the horse. But the ocean as well, and painting. I love to paint.
Oh.
And I don't have time to do it very often, so walking on the beach with my girls and painting. I don't think I need anything else. I would love to be close to the ocean and just have my girls close by. That's it. That's and seeing people transform. That when I meet someone who their life is terrible, they want to die, and then a few months later they're building something so unique and amazing that gives me goosebumps every single time. So yes.
Yeah, I agree. Last question. What is one fun or interesting thing about you that makes you uniquely you?
I don't know if it's fun for others, but people tell me I can read minds. I don't know what it is, but I had this before Second Firsts, but I'm pretty good at being quite psychic. People tell me that I should do this for a living, but I think it's a gift that's been given to me to use it with my clients, with my work, with my reentry participants, and I do use it freely there. But it's actually funny because I get information and there's no filter when that happens, so it just comes out. And if I had thought about it, I would never say it,
right?
Because it's crazy stuff, and of course it's not going to be true. How would I know that? But it comes out. I guess that's funny. It's funny for me to see because I don't even know if I believe in psychics or being able to tell the future. So I'm having fun with it. I'm having a lot of fun with that. It's scary though, because I don't want to shut it down, but then again, I don't know what to do with it either.
Right.
But I think when you connect to something bigger than you, you create a divine experience every single day. You're open to the energy around you, and your energy blends in with everyone else. When I write my message in a bottle, my newsletter every Friday, I have people write to me and say, how did you know what's on my mind? And I really believe that you can access the collective consciousness. Everyone can do that.
Yeah.
If they tune into it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how fun my accessing the collective consciousness is, but I'm actually funny, really, like I can be really funny because nobody expects it, and
right.
I make people laugh a lot. I don't know, I'm not that original. I'm just a regular woman that has food cravings and struggles with weight and has insecurities and is guilty being a mom and working at the same time. I'm just like everyone. I'm just like you. I'm just like everyone else. So that's it.
Yeah, with lots of gifts to bring to the world. So thank you for doing that.
My pleasure, my dear.
Well, thank you so much for being here. secondfirst.com and thelifestarters.org. Look for her book, Second First, coming out November 4th. And wishing you so much joy and success. Christina, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Alana, thank you so much for having me and starting my week off like that. I really appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
My pleasure.